Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of HR Sound Off Live. I am Julie Turney, your host, and as you will see, I got a new little background going on over here. It is July, guys. Can you believe that half of the year is gone already, and we are moving very swiftly into Kadooment for us here in Barbados, and then Christmas. So time is getting away from us. And while that time is getting away from us, I have a question for you guys. What are you doing on July 28th? If you are in Trinidad, that is a very important question for you. If you are outside of Trinidad, then you need to be looking at flights so that you can come in because something amazing is happening on July 28th in Trinidad. And I know for those of us who are based in the Caribbean that always ask the question, what conferences are there out there for us to attend? Whether we're HR professionals or business professionals, what conferences are there out there? Well, let me tell you, this is a very important conference because it focuses on communication. And we all need good communication in the workplace. Am I right or am I right? I know I'm right. So, this conference that I'm about to dig deeply into with the amazing brainchild Leisel Douglas-Wickham, we are going to be talking about communication, emotion, and how she is building community around her expertise of communications. So I will be bringing her to the stage right now.
Hi,
Leisel,
Julie.
hello, hello.
Hi, Julie, and hi to everybody who's locked in or who locked on or who'll be listening into this program afterwards. Good to be here.
Yes, it's good to have you finally. We have made
Finally.
finally,
I
finally,
know
we have made it.
we have made it.
Yes. So, this wonderful conference that I'm talking about today is Communication Emotion. It's happening on July 28th in
Hmm.
Trinidad and Tobago from 8 a.m. at Barataria. And we
Hmm.
have some amazing sessions for you, starting
Hmm.
with pause, don't stall, own your brand, from brand to band, the communicator's blueprint, depth of evolution of media and visibility and value. So Lisa,
Hmm.
I will bring that up on the screen again at some point in time during our live today. But I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. Tell us a little bit about who is Leisel Douglas Wickham and what made you decide to create this space to have conversations about how we communicate better in the workplace?
Yes. So Leisel Douglas is a communicator by profession. I often say that communication is my love language because I believe that everything in the world can be solved through effective communication.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have been operated in this space for woo, 15 years. I just aged myself in real time for 15 years.
And
And
don't
then I
look a
found,
day over 15. So you started
oh,
when you were one?
thank you. Um, and then, I've been working in corporate communications, corporate public relations for quite some time. And then I launched out and formed Pros and Comms, which is a boutique communications agency based in Trinidad and Tobago, but really we've serviced clients throughout the region and internationally as well. And of course, communication being our fundamental tenant, after which everything flows. So we come in and give you the full 360-degree strategy that entails all of the other arms of communications, whether that be marketing or social media or influencers or copywriting or dealing with the media, etc., or events, if that's what your particular need calls for. And so while serving at Pros and Cons, having consulted with several agencies and organizations locally, I realized there is no real space, no real event for communicators to gather and learn from each other, to share our experiences, our expertise, our resources, our knowledge, or even some of the training that we may go on and get individually And so I wanted to develop a community of communicators. That was the initial vision. And
Mm-hmm.
so 2 years ago, I did the first conference called Community, and the theme of it there was Welcome to the Neighborhood of Effective Communication.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the funny thing about it is that initially, when the vision came to life, it was specifically for communicators only. So
Right.
those of us operating in the field, whether
Sounds great.
we were in publicity, we were in corporate communications, we were consulting, and then, over the years, it's evolved to realize that effective communication is not a soft skill, or it's not a skill that is, for one set of us. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually an essential life skill. And then you realize that, when you start talking to HR professionals, when you start talking to people in sales, how important communication is for them to manage both their internal and external customers. When you start talking to people in finance, how important communication is for them, for people to understand what do these things mean? How do you translate our particular jargon into words and into ways in which people will understand the message that you're trying to deliver, right? How do you communicate effectively? And so I kind of went all up. We probably need to reshape this community, open the doors again, let some more people in,
Mm-hmm.
because communication transcends industries, transcends sectors, it transcends so many demographics that we measure,
Yeah.
how we work by, that it's really the perfect opportunity for an inclusive space. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
where we are now with community.
Yes. It's amazing to watch you grow, Lizelle. And I gotta say, I'm so proud of you for actually seeing a need and filling a need.
Mhm.
And as you did that, what were some of the biggest lessons that you learned from hosting community over the last 2 years that you're bringing into communication in motion for 2026?
Well, it's a double-edged sword, because sometimes when you're planning an event and it's so near and dear and close to your heart, you have a particular way of what you think needs to be covered and how
Mm-hmm.
you think that the event needs to flow. But it really calls for you to take a step back and listen to what are people actually saying that they want to have a safe space to have conversation about. So in the first year, the opening session, and we always start community with a session that is very holistic and really caters to not communication as the profession, but how communication impacts our lives.
Yeah.
So the first year, we started off with a session I believe called the psychology of communication.
Mm-hmm.
And so we actually looked at, how do your past influences or experiences impact and influence the way you communicate today? Now, for communicators, how does that show up for us in the way in which we develop or craft or ideate campaigns in order to appeal to our external audiences? But
Mm-hmm.
for just everybody overall, how does that show up in conflict? In
Mm-hmm.
terms of how you treat with conflict, how
Mm-hmm.
does that show up in terms of when you're not in control? How do you treat with having to be a team player and having to, so you realize that there's something for everyone to get out of it.
Yeah.
And that really made me take a step back and go, okay, so I need to actually ask people, what is the space you want me to create for us to talk about what? And so in the second year, the topic that kind of people wanted more of was DEI. People wanted to have the conversations on diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially in a Caribbean setting. So
Yeah.
then I kind of realized, okay, so a lot of these things, it's not that there aren't resources out there, but
Right.
it's not necessarily for us in the
Mm-hmm.
Caribbean region. So,
Yeah.
okay, so we kind of did that. And then now we're moving into this space where it's like, we want to move. So even the theme of this year's conference, which is communication in motion,
Mm-hmm.
is like, okay, so we don't want to come to another conference where we just sit and we're being talked at. We want to engage. We want
Yeah.
to work immediately, and we want to definitely have actionable tools, tips, strategies that we can implement almost immediately as we leave the conference, whether it be in our professional or our personal lives. So
Mm-hmm.
that has been, I think, the biggest revelation for year three, and it has prompted a total redefine or a
Yeah.
refinement of the
Mm-hmm.
product. So, for example, before, for the first 2 years in community, I focused a lot on mixing up the presentation types. So we had straight presentations, we had fireside chats, we had panel discussions, just to keep people engaged.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're at a place where we have separated our sessions into what I call studios and clinics. And
Mm-hmm.
so these studios are really encouraging an exchange of ideas where we encourage our participants, share your experiences, share your thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
because, share in sharing there is learning.
Yeah.
Whereas our clinics are where it's much more, theoretical or interactive, where we can bring in case studies, where we can say, based on what you know and what you may have learned so far, how would you approach this? And then get that feedback in real time so
Mm-hmm.
that our facilitators can provide feedback in real time so people can leave feeling as if they've really received a tangible takeaway from the event.
Nice, nice. What brought about that change? Because, when you go to conferences, for the most part, you will experience either people talking at you, as you said, the fireside chats, the panel discussions. I see in some conferences now, you may get some speakers that give you some interaction, so they may ask questions. But this sounds to me like it's more comprehensive in terms of workshops and actually putting communication in practice in the moment. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Correct, that's right. And so for me, that was personal, right? I've realized even in working for clients that with the rise of technology, social media, AI, persons' attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter and more limited.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what we do traditionally, where we invite people to come to a conference and they sit down and their screens and their PowerPoint presentations, it's easy for you to, kind of zone in and out. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're on your phone, you're getting distracted. Somebody's always getting up outside to take a call or to deal with some sort of emergency. And I
Yeah,
realized we need a way to actually keep people in the room and also to deliver value
yeah,
because as our economy changes, you are spending money on a conference, you want value for your money.
that's
And so I need to ensure that you feel as if, yeah, this is not just worth my investment, but I should have actually paid more for the kind of value that I got here today. And so in thinking about that, we realize, okay, well, different formats in terms of how, presentations are given, it's good, but it's not enough. People need to kind of understand what they're coming to so that they can set their expectations and like really set their mind to receive everything that we have to offer. So from year one, it's always been a no screen zone.
yeah,
So we don't have screens in the conference. It's not a PowerPoint presentation where you just flip from slide to slide and then say, can you send me the slide after? If you miss it, it's gone.
yeah.
And then I always tell people dress comfortably. It's not a business where you have to be in a suit and tie and you're very uncomfortable because you
Mm-hmm.
never can tell what is going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
We, especially in the Caribbean, we communicate with our entire beings. So you may be, asked to move
Yeah,
and not just listen and not just talk, but sometimes communication is in your body language, what
that's
you
it.
say, and the tone. So you have to be comfortable, and I want you to be comfortable and relaxed so that you can really be a sponge to absorb everything that the
Mm-hmm.
day has to offer.
Mm. I love that. So last year was my first year of community.
Yes.
I absolutely loved it. And I think, as I said, more people need to be there. And whatever I can do to support you to put more seats in the room, I'm going to do that for you because I really believe in what you're trying to create. One of the things that you did that really impressed me, Lizelle, was you said you communicate through music. And so
Mm-hmm.
each time there was a different segment, you had a song that went
Mm-hmm.
along with that. And I really
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed that. But tell me, what was your thought process around connecting people to music? I'll tell you two reasons why I loved it. I feel like it really spoke to us as Caribbean people. And what really does connect us is our music. And you had each song that you played really helped to set the pace for what was coming next. And I really enjoyed that. But tell me a little bit more about your thought process if you care to share.
Well, music is my thing. And I think anybody who's been following my career from inception would tell you, even if I'm hosting an event for a client, I find a way to bring music in. And so for my events, I can do what I want, right? So now we have a song at the beginning of every segment. And I'll tell you why. The first reason is because people coming into a conference, either coming in a clique, so they're coming with their work colleagues and they already know this set of people and they're going
Mm-hmm.
to stick with this set of people throughout the whole experience, or they're coming cold turkey. They may be the only one from their organization, or they may just be brave enough to say, I see this conference, this is something that interests me and I want to come. And so they come into a room most times with a level of caution and hesitation. Let me sit down first,
Mm-hmm.
scope it out
Look it
before I
out.
raise my hand.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to get right into it. And I have found that one of the most effective icebreakers is music. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you hear that, first of all, you don't expect some of the kinds of music that I play in the conference to be
Yes.
played in the
Mm-hmm.
conference. So
Mm-hmm.
when you hear that, it immediately triggers your brain, oh, this is not going to be a usual experience to me. And then you look around the room and you see how your peers are reacting. Immediately it triggers your brain, okay, well, if I like this song and this person likes it, this may be the person for me, or this person isn't feeling it at all. So, what that does, it also helps with conversation starters as people network.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes you go to a conference and they tell you, oh, we have a networking session after we want you to meet and mingle. You have to help people to
Yeah.
network.
Yeah.
Because if they were good at networking, they wouldn't
It would.
need a networking session. And so
Mm-hmm.
I find as well that the music helps to be that conversation starter to kind of break the ice.
Yeah.
And then the third reason, I think I'm up to three now, is that oftentimes we don't really internalize the lyrics of songs, and
Mm-hmm.
we don't realize how it's subject to interpretation and how it can play in different ways. And
Mm-hmm.
so I use music immediately as a challenge to say, really
Yeah.
listen to the song, think about the segment that we have next. And I
Mm-hmm.
found that people oftentimes get a kind of moment, and
Yeah.
it makes them more engaged and more excited for the session that's coming up. So music is definitely a mainstay. It's going to be there again this year.
Mm-hmm.
I flip flop between the songs at least 4 or 5 times before I decide on it.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes I change it on the morning of, because when you see the energy in the room, you
Yeah.
realize, oh no, this group of people, they're ready to go. We can go high energy immediately, or you
Mm-hmm.
realize, okay, I probably need to start a little bit slower, a little bit softer, and get them to where I need them to be. So
Yeah.
that's why.
Yeah. I love it. I absolutely love it. Because the music comes from you. Now,
Hmm.
like you go to other conferences and maybe, and I've had occasions where the planner will ask me, well, what song do you want to walk onto the stage to? And at this conference, you have no choice but to walk onto the song that you have chosen.
Hmm.
And you've been very intentional about the song that you have chosen. And so that for me is it's inspirational, but it's also very brave because you have to know the speaker, you have to know the content that they're coming with to be able to make a conscious decision about this is the music I'm going to play.
Well, actually, I don't know the content that these speakers are going to come with. As
Uh-huh.
you know, I select speakers and I say to them, this is the topic that I'm giving you. These are the things that I want you to touch on. This is how I want people to feel. And this is what I want people to take away. How
Mm.
you choose to translate that, if I
It's
had to tell you
completely
all of that, then it's best I just stand up there and do it myself.
and do it yourself.
You know what I mean? So the whole
Hmm.
point of it is to give people platforms for them to showcase their unique speaking and teaching style,
Hmm.
because not everybody may respond to my teaching style, but they may respond to yours. Not
Yeah.
everybody may respond to yours, but they may respond to a different speaker. And
Hmm.
so I really don't believe in, and it's probably crazy, but I don't do things like show me a presentation
Yeah.
before you get on stage, tell me what it is you're talking about. It's the trust, because you're
Yeah.
bringing professionals and experts in their own right on the stage. And it's the trust that I have outlined clearly what we need to cover. I know you are the person to cover it, and I'm going to trust and leave you to do your job. And then
Hmm.
the other thing with the music is that because I give speakers that amount of leeway or
Yeah.
liberty, I have to ensure that what I need to get across is received. And
Yeah.
so the music is a way in which I can stitch the storytelling together and
Mm-hmm.
stitch the fabric of the event together. So I can always go back at the end of the day when it's time to wrap up. Even if somebody may have missed it, I can say, okay, well, remember we played this, and then Julie spoke about this, and then we played that, and then Jem spoke about this. And so even if you may have missed the connection throughout the
Yeah.
day, then you realize how intentional it was and the purpose that it served.
Nice, nice. But that leads us straight into our speakers. So tell us a little bit about the speakers this year, and what the audience, as an audience, can they expect from our speakers at
Yeah.
Communication in Motion 2026.
So the speakers this year, as every year, have always been a very personal choice. Next year, the aim is to get to the point where I can open up, take a page out of Julie's book with Disrupt HR, and open up a call for speakers. You know, because I know by no means do I know everybody who will be excellent to put on the community stage, but even the topics, as I mentioned before, we always start with a topic that can cover everybody in the room. And so, one of the things, especially in Trinidad, that we're hearing right now is a lot of burnout, a lot of like, I'm just feeling to quit my job and just risk it for everything. And it's like, okay, so we're all feeling the burnout. We're all in a season of, maybe uncertainty as to what's next. How do I get you to pause instead of stalling? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why the name of the session is Pause, Don't Stall.
Yeah.
And that's personal for me because I hit a season of stalling a couple years ago. So I
Yeah.
know exactly what that feels like, and I know how much you have to lose in that season to being able to now pause and not necessarily come to a full stop.
Mm-hmm.
And the speaker selection for that, which is, the incredible Julie Turney, ladies and gentlemen. Again, personal bias. One, you were on the community stage last year, and I really felt as if you were down to the latter part of the program. Time was running against us, and I feel like if you weren't able to really share the breadth of what I think you came prepared to share. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that was unfortunate for participants. I always knew I wanted to bring you back. But then when this topic came up, I said, oh, Julie is like, this just fits so perfectly with everything that Julie is talking about in her professional capacity. And
Mm-hmm.
then personally, Julie has been there for me to ensure that I don't stall again. I just pause. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, nobody else but Julie. It has to be
Thank you.
Julie. And I brought Julie to community, and people are reaching out. Oh my God, I'm so excited to hear Julie. She's always such a good time. I said, okay, well, I made the right choice. Didn't
Mm.
even have to wait until the conference to
Okay.
see that.
Wow.
And you're kicking us off. So that's a high order, but I'm
Oh
sure
my
you
goodness.
over deliver, not just
Mm.
deliver, over deliver.
I will do my
And
best. No
then
pressure.
our next topic we're talking about is branding, right? And so we said, I call that session Own Your Brand. And so there's a lot of talk in this space now about the difference between your personal brand and your professional brand. People think that they are two separate things. They're
Right.
absolutely not. And if you
No.
want to know why, come to the conference.
Mm-hmm.
And so, really talking about how you position yourself. And I just recently went through people
Rebrand.
call it a rebrand.
But the
I
branding is different.
prefer, yeah, refinement of the brand,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because the brand at its core is still
The
what it
six.
was when it began, but
Mm-hmm.
how I present that brand and who I'm really looking to serve based on where I want to go is, a little bit different. It doesn't mean that we've stopped serving our initial demographic or our initial clientele, but we're putting focus in another space now to grow this side of the business. And so the speaker for that, Jem is actually part of the company who I reached out to support me in that refining of the brand. Because you know how they say, like the nail tech, nails are never done, or the hairdresser, hair is never did. And
Mm-hmm.
it was an interesting experience for me because what I do for clients, I can do for myself.
Yeah.
I could not get it together to do it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And they were really fantastic in just listening to me talk and listening to me share my experiences and where I wanted the brand to grow. And
Mm-hmm.
what they gave me back, I was like, gosh, this is fantastic. And they challenged me to think about things that I didn't normally think about. So, for
Right.
example, I'll give you a quick example.
Yes.
I am always talking about update your headshots.
Yeah.
right? Look like what you look like now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you just do a photo shoot and you just get some headshots and you go. They were like, when you're taking pictures, what is the story that you're trying to tell behind the pictures? It's
Mm-hmm.
not just it that you're polished, you got your makeup done and you look professional,
Mm-hmm.
but we need you to select your outfits, think about how you're posing in terms of the story that this refinement of your brand is trying to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, more people need to know about this. And so I
Yeah.
asked them, hey, I know I paid you all for this service, but I'm asking you all to come and give it away for free. How do you all feel? And they were like, we're definitely on board with that.
Nice.
And then I always like to have a real life experience that we can draw on that from, and that's where from brand to band came in with Valmiki Maraj, who's the
Mm-hmm.
creative director of Lost Tribe, a popular carnival band here. They win band of the year almost every year. And I said, hey Val, would you just come and sit down? It's just a conversation between you and I to really talk about how a lot of the things that you hear in Jam Session are applied to a real tangible brand that you, after the conference, you can go and you can look on their website and you can see
Yes.
their history. So that's where Val is coming in with that conversation. After that, we're getting into the communicator's blueprint, and that's focusing on three P's: positioning, publicity, and pitching.
Mm.
um, Positioning, because and this has been for a couple of years now, a lot of persons who are in the communications field are being underutilized or utilized in the wrong positions in their respective organizations.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times we are consulted after the fact instead of being invited to
To
have a
the
seat at the
conversation
table
from the
while
beginning.
while the conversation is happening.
Yeah.
And so positioning is really understanding your position as a communicator in your organization,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing how to speak up and advocate for yourself to really get where you need to be to have the biggest impact,
Yeah.
and what you or how to tell people, this is actually what I can do for you. If you call me in from the start, these are the benefits. If you wait until after, these are going to be the cons, right? So the
Yeah.
pros and cons of my
Pros and
positioning.
cons. Mm-hmm.
And then when we talk about pitching, in Trinidad and Tobago specifically, we have seen our media landscape change drastically over the past couple of months. We've lost a couple of media entities, and the ones that exist are telling we are short staffed. We're trying to do the best that we can with what we
Yeah.
have. So,
Right.
how do you help get your stories told? How do you have the media to help you?
Mm.
How do you pitch a story? What is the angle that they're looking for? How do you pitch different things? You may pitch a story differently to the business desk that you will to the feature
Yeah.
section, or even identifying who do you pitch this story to, who cares, who wants to know about this, and who's going to give me that publicity that I need. Which brings us to the third P in terms of publicity, and making publicity make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not just, oh, my face is slapped all over the place and I get the visibility, and then what if?
Right.
But building real and lasting relationships with your contacts, with the media, and how do you maintain publicity in telling your story to keep your brand or your service or your product alive. So
Mm.
that is coming from the communicators blueprint, and then we're going to be having a conversation after that with one of the reporters here, Kijan Haynes, talking about the death or evolution of our media. As I just said, we've
Yeah.
seen a significant shift in
Mm-hmm.
our local landscape in recent times. And
Mm-hmm.
so really for persons to understand in the room, we always blame, oh, well, this person didn't come, this person didn't carry the story. What is happening in the newsroom? What is happening behind the camera that we may not be privy to? Let's have a real, frank, and honest conversation about that so we
Mm-hmm.
can lead to a better understanding as to how to engage the media so that everybody gets what they need to get out of the pie, right?
Yeah.
And then our last session of the day is called Value and Visibility. And I will tell you, everybody needs money to do the things that they have to do. You
Mm-hmm.
know the sponsorship struggle, especially when you're doing an event,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I know it too well. So
How do you
painful.
get that visibility from your sponsors, and how do you give them value? And
Mm-hmm.
so in sitting down and thinking about this, I said, I really don't just want to teach people how to write a sponsorship proposal. I want to bring active sponsors, people who are in positions to provide that sponsorship for them. You listen to them and let them tell you, this is what we look for. in a sponsorship proposal. This
Yeah.
is why it's important for me to not think about how my brand fits into the event that you're trying to do. You've already mapped that out for me so that when I read this, I go, I cannot not be a part of this.
Part of it.
And a huge part of that is how strong is your product? How strong is
Mm,
your service? And so we have LaShawn coming in that session as well too, and she's going to focus on your digital footprint. So
mm,
not just social media, which you don't own or control, but we're going to be talking about the Facebook, the Instagram, the TikToks, all of that, but also your website. And
yeah.
how do you tell the story on your website? How do you take that same story and adapt it for your sponsorship proposal, and then take that same story and break it down into bite-sized pieces for it to filter through your social media, so
Hmm.
that there is a cohesiveness with what you're saying, but it doesn't limit the appeal. And then I will also be joining that session, because at the end of the day, you should know how to put together a deck, how to put together a
Yeah.
proposal, challenge you in terms of thinking of the different ways in which you can do it in order to catch a sponsor's eye. And so
Hmm.
that's going to be very engaging. We also should have two. I know Mark Locke is already confirmed, and he's a, I don't want to butcher his title, so let me not say it at all, but he's coming out of the hardcore group there. And so he's on the other side of the table to say, and I told them, I was like, guys, it's a safe space. You all can be very frank, you all can be very honest. This is what I'm looking for. And so when you send me a sponsorship proposal with this and this in it, I immediately put it to the side, because when I worked in digital, I could tell you I did that. I saw a sponsorship proposal and I have to think too hard about how my brand is going to get the visibility and the value out of this. I'm moving on to the next, because I mean, thousands are crossing your desk every week. And so, in terms of getting that sponsorship, one of our sponsors who has been with us from year one, which would be Media Insight, I also asked them to come and give a presentation in between those sessions, because Media Insight really tracks the sentiment online. We've kind of gone by, oh, we get this amount of likes and this amount of clicks, but what is the sentiment? How are people
Yeah.
actually your posts? And so
Hmm.
I thought that would fit in nicely between the communicator's blueprint and value and visibility. So they
Hmm.
will also be giving us a presentation on that. So I mean, already you can hear the incredible
I
value.
can hear it. I can hear it. I can hear it. I can hear it, but I can also see how it's tied to my business and helping my business to be better. And I know other organizations can hear it, see it, and understand how they are going to benefit by bringing their people along to actually hear that information and be able to use it in their organization. It's very thoughtful in terms of whether you are an entrepreneur or you are a big organization, whether you're small, medium, enterprise, you can benefit from this information because we all communicate. We all need to communicate with the public to put our brand across and how those messages are interpreted by our audience. But also on the backside of it, how we get people to invest or in sharing or telling our story through the media is very important. And I only learned that last year at community. It was like the beginning of my journey of that, of like, wow, like these are so many things I never thought of about
Mm-hmm.
building relationships with media houses, or um, what makes somebody say yes to printing a story about me and the work that I do, or my organization and the work that we do. Um, I have a question for you. This might be a little bit out of the box, but it's all
Mm-hmm.
part of comms. But one of the biggest things for me personally over the last couple of years has been around this tendency for organizations to bring in influencers. And the story that these I throw you a little, I throw you off a little bit, right? But I know you will give me your honest opinion on this, because as you spoke about brand identity and brand story, but I see a lot of organizations just getting influencers who have high followings on social media to tell a story about the product or service that they have, but it doesn't really bring it together for me. So you
Mm-hmm.
ate the food, so what? But what does that tell
Mm-hmm.
me about the story and the why? And the reason why I brought this up is because I see one company out there in particular that is doing it a little bit differently. And how they communicate their story appeals to me, and that is Sorvete.
Mm-hmm.
And how Renee talks about her products and how she puts them together. She shares not just a day in the life of an entrepreneur, but how she's building her team, the lessons she's learned. And that for me is about how you communicate and build a brand. What is your thought about owners getting into the story versus let me get an influencer that has a high following to tell this story?
Mm-hmm. I think everything serves a purpose, and it just depends on what is the strategy that you're implementing, and what are the results that you're looking for, and what is the time within which you expect to see those results, right? So, for example, for businesses or brands that use influencers with high follow accounts and that sort of stuff, you know that your visibility is going to be high because they have the eyes behind it. So, people will become aware of your product, whether they engage with it. That may not be the result that you're looking for. You may just be looking to increase your visibility, increase your awareness, and hope that, maybe it will stick a little bit. So, in that regard, the influencers with the high follow account, they make sense. We are now seeing micro influencerism becoming a thing, and they spoke about this at Media Insights recent conference as well too, where there are people who are more interested in engagement. So your eyes may be less, but people actually take action, or people actually listen to you based on what it is you're saying because they trust you. So there is a higher level of authenticity with that sort of influencing. And
Mm-hmm.
so the brand may have a little bit more time to gain that visibility and that awareness. But what they're really interested in is conversion. They want to see people actually experiencing or partaking of the product or service that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have people who have to do it all themselves, and that's also a stage where oftentimes you start off as a solopreneur, you
Mm-hmm.
graduate to an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and nobody can tell your story better than you. And I think that's the category in which Rennie kind of falls into, where she's the best person to take you behind the scenes. And what that does is that your result is now buy-in, because I have driven from where I live to where her pop-ups are in South, which is a little distance,
Yeah.
just to get her product, because now I feel like I see the level of care, I see the level of dedication, I see the quality of the product that she's putting in, and now I want to experience that myself, and now I'm buying in to the
Mm-hmm.
product. That took her, I'm sure, a considerable more amount of time in order to get the types of followers that she has now. But we are her followers.
Yeah.
You have a pop-up, we're going to go. And even in some of her pop-ups where, you may have extraordinary long lines and long waits, and the experience may not be totally 100%, we are more willing to provide grace
Yeah.
and to still wait to get our ice cream and our lemonades, because they're the bomb, I will say that.
Wow.
Because we now have buy-in to the product. So I think it all depends on what it is you're trying to achieve, and more importantly, the time frame in which you may just have something. For example, World Cup. A brand may just want to get added visibility and awareness for World Cup, which is for a particular, this very short period of time that World Cup is happening. And
Mm-hmm.
you have the money, you throw this behind an influencer with a high visibility count, because you know what? That's what you want to achieve. But
Yeah.
then after World Cup, now you want to say, okay, well, now how do we foster a community? Maybe we go into the micro influencers here. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's not, one size does not fit all.
Fit all.
And I think that is what we need to understand from the approach of influencers.
Mm-hmm.
Influencers are not a bad thing. I think you have to find the right fit for your brand or your product, and for the story that you're telling. Because if your product is one that is talking about being very homegrown and comforting, you don't want an influencer who, for example, is always made up, is always polished, is always not a hair out of place, because there is, you know, being able to believe or to connect the dots there is going to be hard for your
Mother.
audience, and you'll seek to confuse them, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to choose the right influencer for your strategy. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's important to have a strategy and to
Mm-hmm.
understand what you want to achieve. And I also think it's important for us to look at different channels, because we, especially in the Caribbean, are so caught up on Instagram, Facebook,
Yep.
TikTok, the regular things.
Mm-hmm.
But we have other things available to us, for example, WhatsApp. So
Yep.
I am an influencer on my WhatsApp. If
Mm-hmm.
I post something on my WhatsApp, the kind of feedback and engagement that I get, I know people will try it because I say that. If I post it on Instagram, I get nothing. Is it because of me? Absolutely. I have not spent any time cultivating the audience on Instagram. I just post whatever I want over there.
Yeah.
And so I also think it's not to just limit ourselves to what is already being done or what is already being established, but
Mm-hmm.
it's fantastic when an organization comes to you and say, hey, I'm willing to try this new thing
Right.
because it could have amazing results
Mm-hmm.
once it fits within a strategy and we understand what we're hoping to achieve. So
Yeah.
that's my take on the influencer argument.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your take on the influence argument,
You're
because I do
welcome.
believe that it is a big one, and I think that for a lot of organizations, it's important to understand the part that it may play as you
Hmm.
build your brand. And I know that as people come out on July 28th and they learn about owning their brand and building their brand and developing it and growing a community as a result of it, that they're going to learn some of these things, and it could be part of the conversation as we have that conversation on July 28th. Now, what words do you have for our audience in terms of, if you're coming and you're not from Trinidad, what can you expect? What can you enjoy? What are some of the things that you want your audience to know that we have not discussed so far?
I would say that this is my third year of doing community, and this is the year that I feel the most confident in
Mm,
what I am putting out. It's the year that I feel the most confident in the topics given what we're experiencing. And I believe that it can transcend geographical, borders. So if you're not from Trinidad and Tobago, don't think that because, I'm Trini and I'm doing an event in Trinidad that it's only going to be for Trinbagonians.
hmm
You definitely still will get something of incredible value from it that you can take away and implement immediately. And I also want to say that, moving forward, social media and technology has taught us that the world is large but small. And events like this is a perfect opportunity for persons to engage with each other, to
hmm
make connections that you may not normally have made. It's going to challenge you to think differently about how you not only communicate with people, but even how you do business with people.
hmm
And you may walk away with, an alignment or an association that can benefit you in ways that you did not see happening.
hmm
I would say that from our first community, almost every speaker that we had on that stage after that conference got fantastic opportunities immediately after, open doors for them. And, that's a side effect of what I thought I was building. I did not realize the significance or the strength of the model. We
Right.
saw it again last year, even when we brought on our what people would not think would be a regular
Featured speaker.
speaker, and I got so much flack for that, and I did it anyway.
I'm so glad
And
you did.
we saw how it changed the minds of people in the room, and I know it had a significant impact on her as well too, even in terms of how she presented her brand moving forward and understanding the
Mhm.
importance and significance and impact she has in certain rooms. So
No.
I would say to anybody thinking about coming to the conference, whether you're in Trinidad, whether you're in the Caribbean or beyond and want to come with an open mind,
Yeah.
because whatever you think you're going to experience, it's
hmm
going to be so much more than that. The proof is in the pudding. We've been doing this now for 2 years, and anybody who's been here for the past 2 years can tell you this is not what I expected, but it turned out to be so much better. And I just want you to give yourselves and give me and my team the opportunity to open that door for you for that new experience.
Beautiful, beautiful. I got some rapid fired FAQ questions for you.
Okay.
So here we go.
Hmm.
So, where can people purchase tickets?
So people can purchase tickets online. The website is scrolling across the bottom of the screen now. Or
hmm
if you email me at community@prosandcoms.co, You can do a bank transfer. I believe the bank transfer information is also online, and you just have to
Okay.
email me so that we can make note of it. And I will say, if you're coming from an organization and you're coming with 3 or more persons, you do get a discount on the ticket price. So
Okay. And that answers my second question. Okay. Is the event hybrid? Is it part online, part in person?
it is not. It is
Okay.
not. It is not. And I'll tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like if coming out of COVID, hybrid, these online and hybrid events kind of saturated us. And I know that there is value in the hybrid model, but for what we're talking about in terms of communication, the impact and the energy that you get from actually being in the room
Yep.
is second to none. And
Mm-hmm.
so, as the conference is still in its infancy and we're still growing, we are an in-person conference right now, but don't like take that as the end all and be all, because when people start buying all the tickets and calling for more, I may have no choice but to go hybrid.
Go hybrid. But for right now, you gotta be in the room. Say it with
Yes,
me.
please.
Be in
Be in the
the
room.
room. That's right. Otherwise, you're gonna miss out and blame only yourself. So if you
Hmm.
can be in the room, be in the room. Is this event an all-day event?
It is. It
Okay.
absolutely is. So, funny story. This year I was experimenting with a different format, right? Because one of the things that people said from the previous 2 years is that one, there were too many topics and they wanted to spend more time on one topic, which is why we have less topics this year. It's really only 4 topics, and I just kind of spliced in some other things in there.
Mm-hmm.
And two, people were like, they couldn't spend the entire day. So actually, what I wanted to do was run sessions simultaneously, and people could kind of choose which sessions they wanted to go to.
Right.
I floated the idea, and the regulars said, absolutely not. We want everything. You have to go to one conference track. We're not doing that. And I
Okay.
said, well, okay, again, remember earlier, and I said, listening to people and what they want, right? So I said, okay, we'll go back to one conference track, but still understanding that sometimes your responsibilities can't allow you to sit in a room for an entire day.
Mm-hmm.
I have made limited session spots available. So, for example, if you just want to hear Julie in the morning, you can come and get a session spot covered for that. And then you can leave and go about your day. So you don't feel as if you have the burden of paying the full conference price, but you get the value for what you pay for. However, the biggest value and the greatest impact will be derived from spending the day with us. So it's your choice.
Thank you so much. Yes, definitely your choice, but we have you've really tried to find a way to accommodate
Yeah.
anyone who wants to come and experience
Hmm.
the conference. So if presenters have slides, will we have access to the slides?
Julie.
I'm listen, I said rapid fire FAQ because I know these are questions people will ask you at some point. So let's try to get them out of the way now.
Will we have access to the slides, meaning the audience?
Yes.
If the presenters have any material that presenters have whatsoever that they want me to share with the audience, once they send it to me, I'll be happy to provide that in email after. Or if it's something that they need actually in their session that I need to print physical copies of, or bring in a whiteboard for them to draw on, whatever you'll need, I will make happen. So yes.
Okay, wonderful. And last but not least,
Hmm.
if people decide at the end of this conference they want to attend in 2027, when is it happening?
Funny story about that. So
Mm-hmm.
when I started community, the date was always supposed to be on July 2nd, right?
Mm-hmm.
And circumstances beyond my control this year, I couldn't put it on July 2nd, so we went to July 28th this year.
Right.
We'll see how it goes. We listen to the feedback from what people tell us. Do they prefer it on the 2nd of July? Do they prefer it on the 28th of July? And
Mm-hmm.
that will determine the date for next year. It's either going to be on the 2nd or on the 28th, but it's definitely going to be in July. I know that some people travel for July, August holidays, but I've been
Mm-hmm.
told that they're traveling in August, so they can still make it at the end of July. So we'll see how that goes, if it works for people, if people find that this is better, because locally, the beginning of July is a bit crowded with some events already. So I'm happy to stay on the 28th, but it
Mm-hmm.
depends on the voice of the people. It's the voice
Yes.
of God.
We just want to make sure that you're staying momentum and that Community 2027 whether it's community or communication in motion, is happening in 2027.
Community is happening in 2027, but I will say that
Mhm.
from Community 2026, in between Community 2026 and Community 2027, we are going to be doing more intimate sessions, intimate workshops. Some
Beautiful.
of the topics that we touch in Community 2026, we're going to pull those out and really give you a much more granular kind of
Yeah.
event. And then some of the topics that I just couldn't fit into Community 2026 because of time and I don't want to oversaturate people, we are going to be pulling out to doing individual sessions. And we're going to be talking about that in Community 2026 as well. There may be some offers on the table for persons who attend Community to get some, additional value in those sessions that we're doing. But at the end of the day, Julie, Community is not about me, you know, and even that is a refinement that I got from year one.
Mhm.
I always tell people, this vision kind of downloaded into my brain and into my spirit. This is not of me. This is not by me. I am just the vessel being used to bring this forward. And
Mhm.
so, after what I saw happen with a lot of speakers from the first community, I realized that this is not about me. And so, the whole premise of community is to create spaces where collaboration can happen with other people who are experts in their respective fields, where we can show you how does communication play a role in this. So
Mhm.
even afterwards, you and I may end up doing a session where we talk specifically to how do you communicate to your internal customer? Because as you know, I'm passionate about that internal
I know.
comms.
I know
And
you are.
so we're gonna need some HR, support on that because
Mhm.
HR is not my field of expertise and I know people
Yeah.
who are excellent at it. So let's collaborate and let's provide a great, valuable experience to people. So that's the vision for community in the broader sense. It's not just
Mhm.
a one off conference, but
Right.
we're really building a community where communication is at the foundation, but we're building all of, everything else on top of it, whether it, as I said,
Yeah.
HR, finance, sales, marketing, whatever it is, we're going
Yeah.
to be building on top of that moving forward.
Thank you so much for sharing that vision, Lizelle, because I do believe you are a true visionary and you're always trying to find ways to build community and collaborate with persons. And so even as you've brought this cadre of speakers together, excellent job as always. And I am very excited for what is going to take place at Community 2026. As you mentioned, I will be kicking things off. My session is called Pause, Don't Stall. So, for 1 hour, I will be speaking to you about why it's important to set boundaries and how you manage up and handle the hard conversations before they become a crisis. And more about how do you treat yourself and how do you train others to treat you, because how you
Mm-hmm.
treat yourself and how you train others to treat you really does matter, because coming out of that is how you're able to set those boundaries. And also to talk about recovery, because a lot of times when we talk about burnout, people believe that recovery from burnout, first of all, people believe that burnout is maybe like a 4 week, 6 week event. So you've for a couple of months, couple of weeks, you've been feeling burned out. But burnout is something that builds up over months and
Mm-hmm.
years. And
Mm-hmm.
the recovery time from burnout is between 3 to 5 years. And
Mm-hmm.
so you are spending a lot of time building up stress that you're not dealing with. And then at the end of that, your recovery takes very long because you have to unlearn things about yourself and relearn things about yourself. And then you have to retrain yourself and retrain others how to treat you. And so this is going to be a very interesting conversation. I have um, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, and I am going to be doing lots of activities. Um,
Excellent.
I actually, when I first started public speaking during the pandemic, it's actually a TED talk. I actually have a TED talk on this. I actually went to TEDx Austria, and I
Mm-hmm.
gave my first TED talk on this about the hidden first responders in the organization, and it was tied to burnout in the workplace in HR and how long we have been burning out before the pandemic, throughout
Yeah.
the pandemic, and beyond.
Yeah.
So this conversation is one that is very near and dear to my heart. So thank you for asking me to do this. I'm really excited to be a part of the communication emotion experience for 2026. And I look forward to continuing to support you in 2027 and beyond. I'm
Thank you
very
so
proud of
much, Julie.
I'm so proud of you. So, so proud.
Oh, this is the part of the interview where Julie is trying to make me cry, ladies and gentlemen, and it's not going to happen
I'm
today.
not.
But
No.
it would be remiss of me if I don't say thank you. Um, it's hard when you are trying to do something that has not been done before, and a lot of people don't understand what you're doing, and a lot of people don't appreciate what you're doing, and you keep doing it anyway, and you don't forget the people who support you in whatever way they can turns out to be in the ways in which you need. And so you have always been one of those supporters that I am forever grateful for, even coming in as a community partner and sponsoring the conference as well too. Let's not forget that, right? And so I appreciate everybody who has put their faith and trust in me and into pros and cons and into the vision, whether that be financially. And so let me just pay the bills and shout out to the sponsors that we do have,
Yes,
which
tell
is
that. Yes, shout out your sponsors. You
all
got five
right,
minutes.
which would be Alrighty, Media Insight, Web Gold, and I Am We Sports Solutions Limited, as well as Hatco coming on, and Disrupt HR at Hearts for coming on to really make this a possibility, because we need money, honey. We can't do these events without the money, and we can't give you the experience that we have in our hearts without the money. So I'm always appreciative of that. But then also the ones that are intangible, the ones that, you're calling to bounce ideas off of, the ones when the tickets aren't moving as fast as you want them to move, who are telling you, keep the faith, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's really, you can't put a price tag on that, and I appreciate that as well too. And of course, for the people who buy the tickets, the people who show up time and time again,
Yeah.
it's so funny this year. I received emails from people who would have attended past conferences even before I could reach out, even before I could put out a flyer that says, hey, when is community? I need to mark this on my calendar.
Uh-huh.
Somebody just said we're
They
sending
were ready.
7. I said, okay, thank you very much. So, it does reinforce that we are doing something, we are making an impact. It is a need that we're filling. And so I am just so grateful for it all. I too am excited to see how it unfolds, because as I said, I don't know what people's presentations are going to be. So I'm also going to be learning in the room. But I
Mm-hmm.
can guarantee you that it's going to be a remarkable, a phenomenal experience. So I want to see you there.
Yeah, we both want to see you there. So come on down, join us one more time, July 28th, 2026 from 8 a.m. Come and listen to these amazing speakers, experience everything that Leisel and her team are creating for you on that day. I promise you, you will not forget it. I am still very much remembering Community 2025, and I'm very, very excited for what is coming for Community 2026. And I want to say also, Leisel, that as again, people are looking for conferences, people are looking for ways to upskill their teams, and
Mhm.
communications is a very important part of how we
It
upskill
is.
and reskill our teams, and helping people to be able to connect the dots between how we build a brand as a business and the part our employees play in that story internally and externally is crucial. And what you have put together definitely will help organizations to solidify that and connect the dots for their team members. So, once again, thank you for creating this space. So if you did not get the link at the bottom of the screen, just hit replay. Um, but I have included the link for you in the comments in YouTube, and I will include the link in the comments on LinkedIn after this stream today. But I want to thank all of you today for sticking it out and having this conversation with us. We appreciate you very much, and we look forward to seeing you again on the next HR Sound Off, which, as I said, trying to do this once a month now. So we'll let you know who will be on screen next month with me, which is August. So we'll see you back then in August. Until then, join us July 28th in Trinidad for communication emotion. Why can't I get out the word communication? Communication in motion. Thank you guys and have an amazing evening.
Bye.